In this vast world where everyone seems to be racing toward an invisible finish line, you might find yourself breathless, wondering when you last noticed the texture of the air against your skin or the way your heart beats in a steady rhythm of life. We often live as if we are chasing a phantom in the future, forgetting that the only reality we possess is the very breath we are taking right at this second. Life is not a marathon to be won, but a garden to be tended, and every flower that blooms requires us to stop and look, truly look, before it withers away. There was a time when a young man sought out a quiet monk living deep in the mountains, hoping to find the secret to eternal happiness. He climbed through jagged rocks and thorny paths, sweat dripping from his brow, his mind occupied only with the goal of reaching the summit. When he finally found the monk sitting by a small stream, the young man was panting, his eyes darting around impatiently as he asked for the highest wisdom. The monk did not offer a complex lecture or a mystical scroll, but instead, he handed the young man a wooden bowl filled to the brim with water. The monk told him to walk around the perimeter of the monastery garden without spilling a single drop, and only then would he reveal the secret. The young man focused intensely on the bowl, his muscles tense, his eyes locked on the surface of the water as he moved with agonizing slowness. He returned hours later, proud that not a drop had been lost, but when the monk asked him if he had seen the vibrant peonies blooming by the gate or heard the song of the bluebird in the willow tree, the man shook his head. He had been so consumed by the fear of spilling the water that he had missed the very beauty he had traveled so far to find. This is how many of us navigate our days, holding on to our responsibilities and anxieties so tightly that the world passes us by in a blur of gray shadows. Slowing down is not about being lazy or falling behind, but about reclaiming the dignity of your own existence. When you walk, let your feet feel the solid embrace of the ground, acknowledging that each step is a miracle of balance and grace. When you eat, allow the flavors to tell you the story of the sun, the rain, and the soil that nurtured your food. There is a sacredness in the mundane if we only give it our full attention. In the ancient scriptures, we see that the enlightened ones did not rush to save the world. They walked with such peace that the world felt saved just by their presence. Consider the story of a traveler who once approached a group of disciples resting under a grove of trees. He asked them why they looked so radiant even though they possessed nothing but their robes and bowls. One disciple smiled and explained that when they sit, they simply sit, and when they eat, they simply eat. The traveler laughed, saying that everyone sits and everyone eats, so what was the difference? The disciple gently replied that when most people sit, they are already standing up in their minds, and when they eat, they are already thinking about their next task. To be truly present is to bridge the gap between the body and the mind, allowing them to rest in the same place at the same time. It is often the smallest things that hold the greatest truths, like the way a single candle can illuminate a cavern that has been dark for 1,000 years. Your awareness is that candle, and every time you bring yourself back to the present moment, you are dispelling the shadows of regret and the fog of worry. We worry about tomorrow because we do not trust that we have enough strength for today, yet today is the only place where strength can be found. If you look at the life of the monks in the forest, you see a deliberate pace that honors the sanctity of time. They do not see time as a resource to be spent, but as a space to be inhabited. Imagine a weaver working on a delicate tapestry, where every thread must be placed with care. If the weaver tries to finish the work in a single hour, the threads will tangle, the patterns will break, and the beauty will be lost. Our lives are that tapestry, and every conversation, every meal, and every quiet moment of reflection is a thread. When we rush through our interactions with those we love, we leave behind a frayed edge. When we speak without listening, we miss the subtle melody of a friend's soul. Slowing down allows us to see the intricate patterns that connect us all, the invisible web of kindness that sustains the universe. There is a beautiful story of a king who was always restless, constantly seeking new lands to conquer and new treasures to hoard. He heard of a wandering teacher who was said to possess a pearl of great price, a jewel that could bring instant peace. The king summoned the teacher and demanded to see the pearl, but the teacher only pointed to a nearby pond where the water was being stirred by the wind. The teacher told the king that the pearl was at the bottom, but as long as the water was murky and turbulent, it could never be seen. The king waited impatiently for the wind to stop, and as the ripples faded, the water became like a mirror. Only then did the king see, not a physical pearl, but the reflection of the clouds, the trees, and his own tired face. The peace he sought was not an object to be gained, but a clarity that arises when the heart is still. We are like that pond, and our constant activity is the wind that keeps the silt of our thoughts swirling. When we choose to slow down, the silt naturally settles, and the inherent wisdom of our being begins to shine through. You do not need to add anything to yourself to be whole, you only need to stop creating the turbulence that hides your completeness. In the gardens of the ancient monasteries, there are often stone basins where water drips slowly, one drop at a time. Each drop seems insignificant, yet over years and decades, those drops carve a hollow into the solid stone. This is the power of persistence in gentleness. We think that to change our lives, we must make grand gestures or take giant leaps, but the true transformation happens in the quiet pauses. It happens when you choose to take 3 deep breaths before answering a phone call, or when you stop to watch the sunset instead of scrolling through a screen. These moments of stillness are the drops of water that eventually soften the hard edges of our hearts. Think of the trees that have stood for centuries, watching empires rise and fall. They do not hurry to grow, they do not compete with the tree next to them to see who can reach the sun first. They simply exist, deeply rooted in the earth, stretching their branches toward the sky with a patience that transcends human understanding. We can learn so much from the silent strength of nature, which never rushes yet accomplishes everything. A flower does not use force to open its petals, it simply yields to the warmth of the light. When we yield to the natural flow of life, we find that things fall into place without the need for struggle. There was once a village where people were always in a hurry, their faces etched with lines of stress as they ran from one duty to another. In the center of the village lived an old woman who spent her days sitting on her porch, weaving baskets with a serene smile. One day, a young girl asked her why she was never in a rush like everyone else. The old woman replied that she had once been the fastest runner in the village, but she realized that the faster she ran, the less she saw. She told the girl that if you run through a forest, you only see a blur of green, but if you walk slowly, you see the moss on the stones, the ants building their cities, and the way the light filters through the canopy. The girl began to sit with the old woman every afternoon, learning the art of slow weaving. She discovered that when she rushed, the reeds would snap, but when she moved with the rhythm of her own breath, the basket became strong and beautiful. This rhythm is available to all of us, it is the heartbeat of the world that we have drowned out with the noise of our ambitions. To listen to it, we must first be willing to be quiet. We must be willing to put down the heavy burdens of who we think we should be and simply be who we are. It is a common misconception that being mindful means we must do less, but in reality, it means we do everything with more heart. When you wash your hands, feel the coolness of the water and the softness of the soap, treating it as a ceremony of purification. When you walk to your car, notice the colors of the sky and the sound of the wind in the trees. These are not distractions from your life, they are your life. Every moment is an invitation to come home to yourself, to find the sanctuary that exists within your own chest. There is a story about a great master who was known for his incredible focus. A student asked him how he managed to stay so calm even in the midst of chaos. The master replied that he simply treated every person he met as if they were the Buddha himself, and every task he performed as if it were his last act on earth. If you knew that this was the last time you would ever drink a cup of tea, how would you hold the cup? How would you savor the aroma? This sense of preciousness is what we lose when we hurry. We treat our moments as if they are disposable, as if we have an infinite supply of them, yet each one is a unique gift that will never come again. The beauty of living slowly is that it expands our capacity for compassion. When we are rushed, we are often irritable, seeing others as obstacles in our path. But when we move with ease, we have the space to notice the weary eyes of a stranger or the quiet joy in a child's laughter. We begin to realize that we are all part of the same journey, all seeking a bit of warmth and understanding in a cold world. A kind word spoken in haste may be forgotten, but a kind word spoken with full presence can heal a wound that has been open for years. In the old days, when the monks would travel from village to village, they did not have maps or schedules. They followed the path of the sun and the needs of the people they encountered. They knew that the most important destination was always the place where they were standing. If they met a farmer in need of help, they would stop and work in the fields. If they met a grieving mother, they would sit and listen to her stories. Their lives were a testament to the idea that there is no greater purpose than being available to the present. We can bring this same spirit into our modern lives, even if we work in offices or live in crowded cities. You can create a sanctuary of slowness in the midst of the busiest day. It starts with the realization that you are not a machine designed for maximum output, but a living being meant for connection and wonder. When you feel the pressure of time closing in on you, remember that time is a human invention, but the eternal now is the domain of the soul. Breathe in the stillness that lies beneath the noise, and let it anchor you. You are like a mountain, and the clouds of tasks and worries may swirl around your peak, but they cannot move the mountain itself. There was a group of travelers who were crossing a vast desert, and they were so focused on reaching the oasis that they forgot to look at the stars at night. One traveler, however, would stop every evening to lie on the sand and gaze at the constellations, feeling the vastness of the universe. The others mocked him, saying he was wasting time and would be the last to arrive. But when they finally reached the oasis, the others were exhausted and bitter, their hearts filled with the dust of the journey. The traveler who had watched the stars arrived with a heart full of light, for he had not just traveled across the sand, he had traveled through the wonders of the cosmos. We often think that the destination will give us the peace we crave, but the destination is just another starting point. If we do not learn to be happy on the way, we will not know how to be happy when we get there. The art of enjoying the journey is the art of being a friend to yourself. It means being patient with your mistakes and gentle with your limitations. It means recognizing that you are a work in progress, and that every stumble is just a different kind of step. When the wind blows through the bamboo forest, the stalks bend but do not break. They have a flexibility that comes from being hollow, from not being filled with the rigidity of ego. When we let go of our rigid expectations of how things should be, we find a similar resilience. We can move with the changes of life without losing our inner balance. This is the secret of the masters who could smile even in the face of adversity. They knew that nothing outside of them could touch the core of their peace as long as they remained present and open. Consider the rhythm of the tides, the way the ocean breathes in and out with a force that is both gentle and unstoppable. There is no hurry in the movement of the sea, yet it reshapes the coastline over time. We too have a natural rhythm, a pace that is unique to our own souls. When we try to force ourselves into a faster tempo, we create friction and pain. But when we honor our own pace, we find a sense of harmony that radiates outward. You do not need to justify your need for rest or your desire for quiet. These are the things that nourish your spirit and allow you to give more deeply to others. There is an old story about a stone cutter who was dissatisfied with his life. He saw a wealthy merchant and wished to be like him, and by a stroke of magic, he became the merchant. But then he saw a king and wished to be a king, then the sun, then a cloud, and then the wind. Each time he thought he had found the ultimate power, he discovered a limitation. Finally, as the wind, he blew against a great stone and found he could not move it. He wished to be the stone, and as he stood there, solid and immovable, he felt a chisel against his side. He realized then that the stone cutter was the most powerful of all, for he had the power to shape the world with his own hands, one careful stroke at a time. We are all stone cutters in our own way, shaping the substance of our lives with our choices and our attention. If we work with haste, the stone will shatter, but if we work with patience and love, we can create a masterpiece. Every moment is a stroke of the chisel, and every breath is an opportunity to start a new pattern. Do not be afraid of the silence, for it is in the silence that the most important lessons are heard. Do not be afraid of the slowness, for it is in the slowness that the most beautiful truths are seen. As you move through your day, try to find the spaces between the thoughts. There is a vastness there that is untouched by the worries of the world. It is the same vastness that exists in the deep ocean or the far reaches of space. When you tap into that inner space, you realize that you are much larger than your problems. You are the observer of the dance, not just the dancer. This perspective allows you to enjoy the movements of life without being swept away by them. You can appreciate the beauty of a passing cloud without trying to hold on to it. The practice of slowing down is like planting a seed. You cannot force the seed to sprout by pulling on it, you can only provide the right conditions of soil, water, and light. Your patience is the soil, your breath is the water, and your awareness is the light. In time, the seed will grow into a magnificent tree that provides shade for many. We often want instant results, but the most enduring things in life take time to mature. Your peace of mind is no exception. Be kind to yourself as you navigate the complexities of being human. There was a disciple who asked his teacher how to deal with the constant distractions of the mind. The teacher took him to a busy market and told him to stand in the center and listen to all the voices without trying to follow any of them. At first, The disciple was overwhelmed, but as he stood there, he began to hear the underlying hum of life that connected all the sounds. He realized that the noise was only on the surface, and that deep down, there was a profound stillness. This is the secret of living in the world without being of the world. You can be in the midst of the marketplace, yet your heart can remain in the quiet forest. The art of enjoying each moment is the art of gratitude. When we are in a hurry, we take things for granted. We forget the miracle of the eyes that can see, the ears that can hear, and the mind that can think. But when we slow down, we see that everything is a gift. The cup of tea in your hand, the smile of a friend, the warmth of the sun, all these are treasures that we often overlook. Gratitude is the key that opens the door to the present moment. It turns a simple meal into a feast and a small house into a palace. When the Buddha was asked what he and his disciples did, he replied that they walked, they sat, and they ate. The questioner was confused, saying that everyone does those things. The Buddha then explained that when they walk, they know they are walking. This simple act of knowing, of being fully conscious of our actions, is what transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. It is the difference between surviving and truly living. You are invited to join this dance of awareness, to step out of the shadows of the past and the future and into the brilliant light of the now. The path is not always easy, as the habits of a lifetime are not changed in a day. There will be times when you find yourself caught in the whirlwind of busyness again, but do not judge yourself. Simply notice it, and with a gentle smile, return to your breath. Each return is a victory, a reaffirmation of your commitment to yourself. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes, until the slowness is not something you do, but something you are. You become a person of peace, a person who carries a quiet joy wherever they go. Think of the way a child looks at the world, with eyes full of wonder and no sense of time. To a child, a single pebble can be a mountain, and a puddle can be an ocean. They are the true masters of the present moment, because they have not yet learned to worry about the next one. We can reclaim that sense of wonder if we are willing to let go of our adult seriousness for a while. We can learn to play again, to see the world with fresh eyes, and to find delight in the simple movements of life. There is a story about a monk who spent his whole life painting a single mural on the wall of a cave. He would spend days just preparing the pigments, and weeks thinking about a single stroke of the brush. People came from far away to see the work, and they were amazed by the detail and the life that seemed to flow from the wall. When someone asked him why he took so long, he said that he was not just painting a picture, he was practicing being alive. Every stroke was a meditation, every color was a prayer. This is the spirit we can bring to our own work, no matter how humble it may be. When we give our full attention to what we are doing, the work becomes an expression of our soul. It ceases to be a burden and becomes a source of fulfillment. Whether you are cooking a meal, writing a report, or cleaning your home, do it with the same care as the monk painting his mural. You will find that the quality of your work improves, but more importantly, the quality of your life improves. You will no longer be waiting for the weekend or for the end of the day, because the beauty of the work itself is enough. The silence between two musical notes is just as important as the notes themselves. Without that silence, there would be no melody, only a continuous noise. In the same way, the pauses in our lives are what give our actions meaning. They allow the echoes of our experiences to settle and be understood. Do not be afraid to sit in silence, to simply be without any agenda. It is in these moments of non-doing that the deepest healing occurs. You are giving your spirit the chance to breathe, to expand, and to reconnect with the source of all life. In the ancient times, there were healers who would tell their patients to go and sit by a river for a whole day. They knew that the constant movement of the water and the stillness of the trees had a medicinal effect on the human soul. We may not always be able to go to a river, but we can find that same healing within us. The breath is our inner river, always flowing, always bringing new life. By focusing on the breath, we can wash away the toxins of stress and anger, leaving us refreshed and clear. The art of slowing down is also the art of letting go. We hold on to so many things that we no longer need, old grievances, outdated ideas, and unnecessary possessions. These things weigh us down and make it harder to move with grace. When we slow down, we can see these burdens for what they are and choose to put them down. We can lighten our load and find a new sense of freedom. It is like shedding an old skin that has become too tight, allowing a newer, softer one to emerge. There was a traveler who was carrying a heavy sack of stones on his back, and he complained about how difficult the journey was. A wise man he met on the road asked him what was in the sack. The traveler said it was his collection of past mistakes and regrets, which he felt he had to carry as a reminder. The wise man laughed and told him that the road was long enough without the extra weight. He suggested that the traveler leave the stones by the side of the road and instead carry a small pouch of seeds to plant along the way. The traveler followed the advice, and as he walked, he scattered the seeds of kindness and presence. In time, the road behind him became a beautiful garden, and his own heart felt light and joyous. We are all carrying sacks of stones, but we have the choice to put them down at any moment. We can choose to plant seeds of peace instead of nurturing the weeds of the past. The present moment is the only place where these seeds can be sown. The practice of slowing down is not a retreat from the world, but a deeper engagement with it. It is about being so present that you can hear the unsaid words in a conversation and see the hidden beauty in a plain face. It is about living with a heart that is wide open, ready to receive whatever life brings with a sense of equanimity. You are not just a spectator of your life, you are the conscious presence that gives it meaning. Every step you take with awareness is a step toward a more compassionate and peaceful world. Think of the ripples that spread out when a stone is dropped into a still lake. Your inner peace is that stone, and the ripples are the effects you have on everyone you meet. When you are calm and present, you naturally bring out the best in others. You create a space where they too can feel safe and relaxed. This is the greatest gift you can give to the world, more valuable than any material possession. By simply being yourself, fully and slowly, you are contributing to the healing of the collective human spirit. In the story of the Buddha's life, we see that he spent many years wandering and meditating before he attained enlightenment. He did not rush to find the truth, but allowed it to reveal itself in its own time. He knew that the fruit would ripen when the conditions were right. We can trust this same natural process in our own lives. We do not need to force our growth or demand immediate clarity. We can live with the questions, knowing that the answers will arrive when we are ready to hear them. The gentleness of a soft rain can soak deep into the earth, while a violent storm often just runs off the surface. In the same way, a gentle approach to life allows the experiences to nourish us deeply. When we rush through things, we only touch the surface, missing the profound depths that lie beneath. Slow down and let the rain of the present moment soak into the parched earth of your soul. You will find a richness and a vitality that you never knew existed. There was a master who once told his disciples that the secret of life could be found in a single leaf. He explained that if you look at the leaf with full attention, you see the entire universe within it. You see the sun that gave it energy, the rain that quenched its thirst, the earth that held its roots, and the ancestors of the tree that lived before it. Everything is interconnected, and nothing exists in isolation. When we slow down, we begin to see these connections, and our sense of loneliness fades away. We realize that we are never truly alone, for we are part of the vast and beautiful dance of existence. This realization brings a sense of immense relief. You no longer have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, because you see that the world is carrying you. You are held by the same forces that keep the stars in their orbits and the seasons in their turn. All that is asked of you is to be present and to play your part with sincerity and love. The art of enjoying each moment is the art of trusting in the goodness of life. It is the art of saying yes to the now, whatever it may bring. As the sun continues to rise, casting long shadows across the path, remember that there is no hurry to reach the end. The path itself is the goal, and every moment is a destination in its own right. Carry this sense of peace with you as you move into the activities of your day. Let your movements be deliberate, your words be kind, and your heart be open. You are a miracle in motion, and the world is waiting to be seen through your eyes of wonder. In the simple act of breathing, you are participating in the grand symphony of the universe, and every note you play with awareness adds to the beauty of the whole, as you find yourself deeply rooted in the quiet strength of the present, where time seems to slow its pace just for you, allowing every sensation to be felt with a clarity that is both sharp and tender, and as you walk away from the rush, you find that the path opens up in ways you never expected, leading you toward a deeper understanding of what it means to be truly alive in this world of wonders and mysteries that are constantly unfolding. The gentle rustle of the leaves reminds us that nature does not use a clock, it uses a heartbeat, and when we align our own pace with that natural rhythm, we find a sanctuary that no external chaos can disturb. It is a strange paradox of our modern existence that we spend so much time trying to save time, only to find ourselves with less of it to actually enjoy, and we become like the traveler who is so worried about the schedule of the train that he never looks out the window at the mountains passing by. To live slowly is to reclaim the luxury of observation, to let our senses breathe, and to understand that the depth of an experience is far more valuable than the speed at which it occurs. There was once an old gardener who worked in the palace of a great emperor, and while others were busy competing for the emperor's favor, the gardener was content to spend hours tending to a single mossy stone. The emperor, noticing this, asked why he wasted so much effort on a rock that did not even bloom. The gardener smiled and explained that the moss was a tapestry of 1,000 years, a miniature forest where tiny creatures found their home, and if he looked closely enough, he could see the history of the rain and the shadows within its velvet texture. He told the sovereign that a king might rule a country, but a man who can appreciate a stone rules his own mind. We often think that we must be doing something significant to be worthy, but the true significance lies in the quality of our presence, and even the act of sitting quietly can be a profound contribution to the peace of the world. When you sit, do not just wait for the time to pass, but inhabit the sitting, feel the weight of your body, the stillness of the air, and the quiet dignity of simply being. In the ancient stories, the forest dwellers did not seek to escape the world, they sought to enter it more deeply, seeing the divine in the curl of a fern and the ripple of a stream. If you look at a river, you see that it never fights against the rocks in its path, it simply flows around them, finding the way of least resistance with a patience that eventually wears the hardest granite away. We can learn to move through our days with that same fluid grace, accepting the interruptions and the obstacles as part of the scenery rather than as enemies of our progress. When someone cuts you off in traffic or a task takes longer than expected, breathe into that space, and ask yourself if the hurry is in the world or only in your mind. There was a story about a merchant who was always calculating his profits, even while he was walking through the most beautiful meadows, and his head was so full of numbers that he never noticed the fragrance of the wild jasmine. One day, he met a wandering monk who was carrying nothing but a small flute, and the merchant asked him how he could be so happy when he had no gold. The monk replied that the merchant was carrying a heavy load of imaginary gold in his head, while the monk was carrying the entire sky in his heart, and while the merchant's gold could be stolen, the sky would always be there. The weight of our attachments and our expectations is what makes us feel rushed, as if we are always behind on a debt we can never fully pay. But when we realize that life is a gift and not a transaction, the pressure begins to dissolve, and we can move with the lightness of a fallen leaf dancing on the wind. You do not have to earn your right to be here, and you do not have to prove your worth through constant activity, because your value is inherent in your existence. In the monastery of the mind, every thought is a guest, and if we treat our guests with hospitality but do not let them take over the house, we find a sense of spaciousness. When a thought of hurry arrives, acknowledge it, give it a seat, and then let it go on its way, without feeling the need to follow it out the door. The art of slowing down is the art of staying at home within yourself, no matter where your body might be. Consider the potter at the wheel, whose hands move with a delicate precision that cannot be rushed, for if the wheel spins too fast or the hands press too hard, the clay will collapse. Our lives are the clay, and our attention is the hand that shapes it, and only in the middle path of steady, gentle pressure can a vessel of beauty be formed. When we are in a hurry, we are like a potter who tries to finish the pot before the clay is ready, resulting in something that is brittle and distorted. There is an old chronicle of a village that was hidden in a valley, where the people lived so long that they forgot their own ages, and when a stranger asked them the secret of their longevity, they said they simply never ate a meal while they were angry and never walked a path while they were in a rush. They understood that the body is a sensitive instrument that records every tension, and that to live fast is to wear out the strings of the soul. By choosing to move slowly, they were preserving the melody of their lives for as long as possible. We often confuse movement with progress, thinking that because we are busy, we are moving towards something meaningful, yet a spinning top moves very fast but never goes anywhere. True progress is the deepening of our understanding and the expansion of our kindness, and these things require the fertile soil of quietude. When you allow yourself to slow down, you are not stopping your life, you are finally allowing it to catch up with you. Think of the way a master calligrapher prepares the ink, grinding the stone for a long time before even touching the brush to the paper, and this preparation is not a waste of time, it is the gathering of the spirit. Your morning routine, your quiet commute, and your moments of transition are your ink grinding, the essential preparation for the work of being human. If we skip the preparation, our actions lack depth and our words lack resonance. There is a tale of a young disciple who wanted to learn the art of archery from a legendary master, and for the first 3 years, the master did not let him touch a bow, but instead made him sit and watch a tiny insect on a blade of grass until the insect appeared as large as a mountain. Only when the disciple's vision had slowed down and expanded could he truly see the target. We are often shooting at targets we cannot even see because our minds are moving too fast to focus. The art of enjoying each moment is the art of looking until the small becomes great and the ordinary becomes miraculous. When you look at a glass of water, see the clouds that provided the rain and the deep aquifers that held it, and suddenly a simple drink becomes a communion with the earth. This depth of vision is only possible when we are not glancing at our watches or checking our notifications. The silence of a snowy evening has a way of muffling the noise of the world, reminding us that there is a peace that exists independently of our circumstances. We can carry that snowy silence within us, even in the middle of a crowded city, if we learn to cultivate a quiet center. It is like the space inside a bowl, which is the most useful part of the bowl, even though it is made of nothing. Your inner emptiness, the space between your tasks, is where your true life happens. In the story of a famous scholar who went to visit a Zen master, the master kept pouring tea into the scholar's cup until it overflowed and ran all over the table. When the scholar cried out that the cup was full, the master told him that he was like the cup, so full of his own opinions and hurry that nothing new could enter. To slow down is to empty our cups, to let go of the idea that we already know what this moment is going to be like. Every moment is a stranger, a guest we have never met before, and if we treat it with the curiosity of a child, we find that it has gifts to offer that we never suspected. But if we approach the moment with a pre-made plan, we only see what we expect to see, and the magic remains hidden. To live slowly is to be perpetually surprised by the richness of the world. There was a group of weavers who were famous for creating silk that felt like water, and they revealed that they only worked on the looms during the hours when the birds were singing, because they believed the melody of the birds became woven into the fabric. They would stop working the moment they felt a shadow of tension in their shoulders, knowing that the silk would feel the stress of the weaver. Our actions leave an imprint on the world, and if we act in a hurry, we leave behind a world that is jagged and restless. But if we act with a calm heart, we weave peace into the fabric of our society, and everyone who comes into contact with us feels a little more at ease. You do not need to be a teacher or a monk to share this peace, you only need to be a person who refuses to be rushed. Your calmness is a silent invitation for others to put down their burdens and breathe. In the ancient times, people used to tell time by the movement of the shadows on a sundial, and they knew that the shadow would move at its own pace, no matter how much they wished for it to go faster. There is a cosmic timing to everything, a season for the blossom and a season for the fruit, and when we try to force the fruit to ripen early, we lose the sweetness. Trusting in the timing of your life is a form of spiritual bravery. It takes courage to be the one who walks slowly when everyone else is running, but it is the only way to ensure that you are going in the right direction. When you run, you can only follow the path that is already paved, but when you walk, you can see the small side paths that lead to the hidden springs. These side paths are where the true adventures of the soul take place. Think of the way a stone sits in a garden, moss-covered and still, yet it is fully alive in its own way, vibrating with the energy of the atoms within it. There is a dynamic stillness that is not the absence of life, but the concentrated essence of it. When we are still, we are not doing nothing, we are becoming a vessel for the life force to flow through us without obstruction. There was once a famous musician who was asked how he played with such soul, and he said that he did not focus on the notes he was playing, but on the space between the notes. He said that the notes were just the frame, but the silence was the picture. Your activities are the notes, but the quality of your life is determined by the silence you keep between them. If we fill every second with noise and movement, we are creating a song that has no rhythm and no soul. But if we allow for pauses, for moments of reflection and wandering, we create a life that is a beautiful composition. Do not be afraid of the empty spaces in your calendar, for those are the places where grace can enter. In the forest, the oldest trees are often the ones that grew the slowest. They were dense and strong because they took their time to absorb the minerals from the soil. The fast-growing trees are often weak and easily broken by the wind. Your character is built in the same way, through the slow absorption of experience and the quiet reflection on the lessons of life. Haste is a form of violence we commit against ourselves, a way of telling our souls that this moment is not good enough and that we must get to the next one as quickly as possible. But the next moment will only be as good as the presence we bring to it. If we are restless now, we will be restless then. The only way to find peace is to find it in the very breath you are taking. There is a legend of a spring that only revealed its clearest water to those who sat by it for 3 days without speaking. Most people would come, take a quick drink, and leave, never knowing that the water at the surface was bitter compared to the sweetness that rose from the depths when the earth was quiet. Your own heart is that spring, and the sweetness of your true nature only rises to the surface when you are willing to sit in the stillness of your own company. The art of enjoying each moment is also the art of forgiveness, for we must forgive the moment for not being perfect and forgive ourselves for not being perfect within it. When we stop demanding that life be a certain way, we can finally appreciate the way it actually is. This acceptance is the foundation of all lasting joy. You may find that as you slow down, your senses become more acute, and the world becomes more vivid. The green of the grass seems greener, the taste of a simple apple becomes an explosion of flavor, and the sound of a loved one's voice becomes a symphony. This is not because the world has changed, but because you have finally arrived to witness it. The hurry of the world is a thin veil, and behind it lies a vast and timeless reality that is always at peace. By slowing down, you are simply peeking behind the veil, reminding yourself of the truth that lies beneath the frantic surface of things. You are like a diver who goes beneath the waves to find the stillness of the deep ocean, even while the storm is raging above. Carry this awareness like a precious jewel in your pocket, and whenever you feel the world pulling at you to go faster, reach in and touch the coolness of that jewel. Let it remind you that you are a child of the eternal, and that there is nowhere you need to go that is more important than where you are right now. The present moment is the only home you have ever had, and it is a home that is always open, always welcoming, and always filled with the quiet music of existence that plays on and on, regardless of whether we are listening, and in that listening, we find the thread that connects us to every living being, every mountain, and every star, creating a tapestry of belonging that is as vast as the universe itself, and as intimate as a single indrawn breath. The fragrance of incense lingering in a temple is not just a scent, but a gentle reminder that even the most beautiful things leave a trail when they move with grace, and our lives too can leave such a trail of peace if we refuse to rush through the sacred halls of our days. When you find yourself caught in the gears of a world that demands more, faster, and louder, remember that the most powerful force in nature is not the lightning, but the quiet gravity that holds the planets in their orbits. There is a profound strength in being the one who remains steady, who chooses to deliberate over every word and to savor every breath, like a master tea practitioner who knows that the water must reach the exact temperature before it can awaken the soul of the leaves. There is a story of an ancient sculptor who was commissioned to carve a statue of a deity out of a massive block of jade, and while other artists would have used heavy hammers and sharp chisels to finish the work quickly, he used only a small piece of bamboo and a bit of sand. Day after day, he would sit in silence, rubbing the sand against the stone with a rhythmic motion that seemed almost invisible to the naked eye. When the people asked him if he would ever finish, he replied that he was not the one doing the carving, but that the stone was revealing its heart to him through the friction of patience. 10 years later, the statue emerged with a glow so soft and a detail so fine that it looked as if it were breathing, for the sculptor had not forced his will upon the stone, but had waited for the stone to yield. Our own lives are like that jade, and we are often too aggressive with our tools, trying to hack out a future that we think will make us happy, instead of allowing the beauty of our character to be polished by the simple, repetitive acts of daily living. When you wash the rice for your evening meal, let the grains slip through your fingers like tiny pearls, and realize that this act is not a means to an end, but a meditation on nourishment and care. The more we focus on the process, the less we are haunted by the outcome, and in that release of the outcome, we find a freedom that the hurried mind can never know. Consider the ancient monks who would spend months creating intricate mandalas out of colored sand, only to sweep them away into the river the moment they were finished, demonstrating that the value was not in the object, but in the focused attention required to create it. We tend to live for the finished mandala, for the trophy, the promotion, or the completed task, but the joy is actually hidden in the placement of every single grain of sand. If you are only happy when the work is done, you are only happy for a fraction of your life, but if you are happy in the doing, then your entire existence becomes a festival of light. There was a wandering healer who was known for curing people just by sitting with them in silence, and when a skeptical traveler asked him for his secret, the healer said that most people are like a house with all the windows and doors left open in a storm, their energy scattered and their hearts cold. He said that he simply sat with them until they remembered to close the windows and light the fire within, and once they were warm and still, the body knew exactly how to heal itself. We are often sick with the disease of hurry, a fever that burns through our vitality and leaves us shivering in the cold wind of anxiety, and the only medicine is the warmth of our own presence, the quiet fire of an attentive heart. Think of the mountain streams that carry the melting snow down to the valleys. They do not deliberate on which path to take, they simply follow the contours of the earth, resting in every pool and dancing over every fall. They are never in a hurry to reach the ocean, because they know that they are already part of the water cycle, and that the ocean is always within them. You are already where you need to be, and the desire to be somewhere else is just a mirage created by a restless mind. If you can find peace in this room, on this chair, with this breath, then you have found the secret that the kings and conquerors of history died without knowing. In the old scrolls, there is a story of a young man who was so eager to learn the Dharma that he ran from one teacher to another, never staying long enough to hear the end of a lesson, because he was afraid he was missing out on a deeper truth somewhere else. Finally, he met an old woman by a well who told him that the truth is like the water in the well. If you keep running from one well to another, you will always be thirsty, but if you stay at one well and dig deep, you will find the source of all the world's oceans. Slowing down is the act of digging deep, of staying with one moment long enough to see the infinite reflected in its surface. The birds do not store the sunlight, they simply sing when it appears, and they do not grieve when it fades, for they trust in the return of the dawn. We can learn to live with that same trust, a radical confidence in the sufficiency of the now. You have everything you need for this second, and the next second will bring its own provisions. When we rush, it is because we are afraid that life will run out of gifts, but life is an overflowing fountain that never dries up for those who know how to wait. In the high mountains, there are eagles that can stay aloft for hours without flapping their wings, simply by finding the invisible currents of warm air that rise from the earth. They are not working hard, they are sensitive, and their flight is a masterpiece of yielding to the forces around them. Our lives can be like that flight if we stop flapping our wings so frantically and start feeling for the currents of grace that are always trying to lift us. Sometimes, the most productive thing you can do is to be still enough to feel which way the wind of your soul is blowing. There was once a master who took his students to a field of wildflowers and told them to pick the most beautiful one, but with a condition: they had to wait until the flower chose them. The students were puzzled, and most of them just grabbed the brightest bloom they could find, but one student sat for 3 hours until a butterfly landed on a modest blue petal, and only then did he reach out. The master smiled and said that the others had taken a flower, but this student had received a gift. When we rush into our decisions and our relationships, we are taking from life, but when we move slowly, we are allowing life to give to us. The silence that follows a great piece of music is where the music finally sinks into the bones, and the same is true for our experiences. If we jump from one activity to another without a pause, we are like a person who eats a 10-course meal without ever swallowing, and we become bloated with experiences but starved for wisdom. Give yourself the gift of the pause, the few minutes of looking out the window after a difficult conversation, the slow walk to the mailbox, the quiet observation of the steam rising from your soup. These are the moments when your life actually becomes yours. Imagine a world where the trees decided to grow as fast as they could. They would have no strength in their bark and no depth in their roots, and the first gentle breeze would topple them. But the trees are wiser than we are. They take their time, layer by layer, ring by ring, recording the story of the years in their very substance. You are also growing your own rings of wisdom, and they cannot be manufactured or accelerated. Every gray hair and every wrinkle is a line of poetry written by the slow passage of time, a testament to the fact that you have survived and that you have felt the heat of the sun and the bite of the frost. There is an ancient parable about a man who was running away from a tiger and came to a cliff, where he swung himself over the edge and held onto a vine. Above him was the tiger, below him was a jagged drop, and 2 mice began to gnaw at the vine. In that moment of absolute peril, he saw a single wild strawberry growing within reach, and he picked it and ate it, and he found it to be the sweetest thing he had ever tasted. This story is often told to show that even in the most difficult circumstances, the present moment has a sweetness that can be savored. We are all on that vine, for life is fragile and the end is certain, but the strawberry is always there if we are not too busy looking at the tiger or the fall. The art of slow living is the art of the strawberry, the ability to find the intense beauty in the small things even when the big things are uncertain. It is a rebellion against the cult of efficiency that treats us like components in a machine. You are not a component, you are a conscious universe, and your primary purpose is not to produce, but to perceive. When you perceive with clarity and love, you are fulfilling the highest calling of a human being. There was a famous gardener in a distant land who was asked to design a path through a park, and instead of laying down stones in a straight line, he simply left the field open for a year and watched where the people naturally walked. He found that they did not walk in straight lines, but in gentle curves that followed the shade of the trees and the view of the lake. He then paved those natural curves, creating a path that felt like a homecoming. Your own life has its own natural curves, its own unique pace that feels right to your soul, and if you stop trying to follow the straight, cold lines of societal expectation, you will find the path that was meant for you. Slowing down allows you to notice the subtle cues of your own body, the way your shoulders tighten when you are saying yes but your heart is saying no, or the way your breath shallowly flutters when you are ignoring your own needs. We have become strangers to our own physical selves, treating our bodies like vehicles to transport our heads from one meeting to another. But the body is the temple of the present, and it is only through the body that we can experience the world. Feel the fabric of your clothes, the temperature of the room, and the subtle shifts in your posture, and you will find that the present moment becomes a living, breathing reality rather than just a concept. There is a quiet dignity in a person who is not in a rush, a sense of self-possession that is more attractive than any fame or wealth. Such a person does not need to interrupt others to feel heard, and they do not need to fill the silence to feel comfortable. They are like a deep lake that can absorb a stone without losing its calm, and their presence alone can settle the jagged nerves of everyone around them. You can be that deep lake for your family, for your friends, and for yourself. It starts with the decision to take one less task today, to walk 10% slower, and to listen with 100% of your heart. The ancient sages spoke of the unwrought bird, the state of being natural and spontaneous before we were shaped by the pressures of the world. To slow down is to return to that unwrought state, to peel back the layers of should and must until we find the simple is. It is the difference between a garden that is manicured and stiff and a wild meadow that is full of life and surprises. Allow yourself to be a little bit wild, a little bit unpredictable, and a little bit slow, and you will find that the world begins to respond with a beauty that you could never have planned. Think of the way a mother gazes at her sleeping child. There is no agenda in that look, no desire for the child to do anything or become anything, just a pure, silent adoration of the child's existence. This is how we can learn to look at the world, and how we can learn to look at ourselves. We are so hard on ourselves, always pushing for more, but the universe is looking at us with that same motherly love, simply happy that we are here. When you slow down, you can finally feel that love, and you realize that you have already arrived, that the journey was always an illusion because there was never anywhere to go but deeper into the heart of the now, where every moment is a sacred encounter with the divine. The falling of a single autumn leaf is a masterpiece of timing, drifting through the air with a grace that no human dancer can replicate, precisely because it does not worry about where it will land or how it looks while falling. It simply yields to the pull of the earth and the whim of the breeze, trusting that the cycle of life knows exactly what it is doing. We often spend our energy resisting the natural descent into stillness, fearing that if we stop moving, we will lose our relevance, yet it is in the quiet descent that we find the fertile ground where new life is born. To slow down is to embrace the season of shedding, letting go of the frantic need to be evergreen and allowing ourselves to rest in the brown, quiet earth of our own truth. There is an old story of a clockmaker in a tiny village who refused to make clocks with second hands, claiming that a man who needs to know the exact second is a man who has already lost his soul to the machine. He believed that time should be measured by the length of a shadow, the cooling of a soup, or the deepening of a conversation. One day, A wealthy merchant came to him demanding the most precise timepiece ever made so he could manage his ships and trades down to the minute. The clockmaker gave him a simple hourglass filled with very fine, golden sand, but told him that the sand would only flow when the merchant was truly calm. The merchant found that the more he checked the glass and hurried his servants, the more the sand seemed to clump and stop, forcing him to sit in silence just to make the time move at all. This is the hidden law of our internal world, where the more we push against time, the more it seems to constrict us, creating a feeling of suffocation and pressure. But when we step back and allow ourselves to breathe, the sand of our lives begins to flow with a natural, golden ease. You might notice that when you are fully immersed in a task you love, time seems to vanish, not because you are moving fast, but because you have moved beyond the measurement of time altogether. This state of flow is the ultimate art of living, where the boundary between you and the moment dissolves into a single, seamless expression of being. In the ancient times, there was a traveler who came across a group of stonecutters working on a great cathedral. He asked the first man what he was doing, and the man grumbled that he was breaking rocks for a meager wage. He asked the second man, who said he was shaping a cornerstone to support a wall. But when he asked the third man, who was working with a slow, rhythmic patience, the man looked up with shining eyes and said he was building a house for the spirit of light. All three were doing the same physical work, but only the third man was truly living, for he had found the sacred meaning in every strike of his hammer. When you slow down, you give yourself the chance to move from being a breaker of rocks to being a builder of light, transforming the drudgery of chores into a liturgy of love. The moon does not race across the sky to prove its power, it moves with a silent, luminous patience that pulls the entire ocean along with it. Your influence on the world does not come from the intensity of your hustle, but from the depth of your presence. A person who moves through life with a settled heart acts as a tether for everyone else, a reminder that it is possible to stay upright even when the world is spinning. If you look at the life of the great sages, they were rarely seen running, yet their reach extended across centuries and continents. They understood that a word spoken from the depths of silence carries more weight than 1,000 shouts born of agitation. Consider the way a master calligrapher holds the brush, not with a white-knuckled grip, but with a hand that is both firm and relaxed, allowing the ink to flow from the heart through the arm and onto the silk. If there is even a flicker of hurry in the mind, the line will be shaky and the spirit of the character will be lost. Our daily actions are the strokes of a brush on the silk of time, and every interaction is a character we are writing into the story of our lives. If you rush through your morning coffee, you are writing a messy, distracted line. If you sit and truly taste the bitterness and the warmth, you are writing a line of strength and clarity. There was once a young monk who was frustrated because he could not find the deep peace his master always spoke of. He complained that his mind was like a cage full of wild monkeys, always jumping and screaming. The master took him to a small pond and told him to watch the reflection of the moon on the water. Every time a leaf fell or a fish jumped, the reflection would shatter into 1,000 pieces of silver. The master told the monk that he was trying to fix the reflection by grabbing the water, but the only way to see the moon clearly was to wait for the water to become still on its own. We often try to fix our inner chaos by doing more, by seeking more advice, or by changing our environment, yet the only real cure for a disturbed mind is the willingness to wait for the ripples to settle. The silence of a forest after a rain is not the absence of sound, but the presence of a deep, listening awareness. The trees are listening to the earth, the earth is listening to the sky, and everything is in a state of perfect receptivity. We have forgotten how to listen in this way, preoccupied as we are with what we are going to say next or how we are going to solve the next problem. To slow down is to become a listener once again, to hear the subtle language of your own intuition and the quiet needs of those around you. When you listen with your whole being, you realize that the world is constantly talking to you, offering guidance and comfort in the rustle of the wind and the steady rhythm of your own pulse. In the old chronicles, there is a mention of a village where the people never used the word fast or slow, but instead spoke of being in season or out of season. They understood that there is a time for the seedling to struggle through the soil and a time for the tree to stand bare in the winter. When we try to be fast all the time, we are trying to live in a permanent summer, which only leads to exhaustion and a parched spirit. Allowing yourself to be in season means accepting the days when you are slow and quiet as being just as valuable as the days when you are vibrant and active. It is the wisdom of the earth itself, which never tries to bloom in December but uses the cold to prepare for the glory of April. Think of the way a great storyteller pauses before the most important part of the tale. That pause is not empty air, it is the space where the listener's imagination catches fire, where the meaning of the story takes root. Your life needs those pauses, those intentional gaps where nothing is happening on the surface so that everything can happen in the depths. A life without pauses is like a book without punctuation, a tiring and confusing blur of words that leaves the reader exhausted. By choosing to slow down, you are putting the periods and the commas back into your story, making it a narrative that is beautiful to live and inspiring to witness. There is a gentle joy in the act of waiting when we no longer see it as an obstacle to our desires. Waiting for a kettle to boil, waiting for a friend to arrive, or waiting for a wound to heal can be a time of profound connection if we stop fighting the clock. In those moments of waiting, you are given a free gift of time, a small clearing in the woods of your busy day. Instead of reaching for your phone to fill the gap, try reaching for your breath. Feel the air enter your lungs and leave your body, a reminder that you are alive and that this very moment is enough. You are not waiting for life to start, you are already in the middle of it. There was a master who lived in a busy city but was always seen with a serene smile, and when asked how he maintained his peace amidst the noise, he said that he practiced the art of the 1-inch journey. He explained that whenever he moved, he focused only on the 1 inch of ground his foot was about to touch. He did not think about the mile ahead or the destination behind, only the next inch. This radical narrowing of focus allowed him to be fully present in every step, turning a walk through a crowded market into a walk through a celestial garden. We are often overwhelmed by the vastness of our responsibilities, but we only ever have to handle the next inch of our lives. The light of a candle is most beautiful when it is not being blown about by the wind, standing tall and steady in its own small pool of radiance. We too have an inner light that is easily flickered by the gusts of hurry and the storms of ambition. Slowing down is the act of shielding that light, creating a sheltered space where your soul can burn with a steady and clear flame. When your inner light is steady, you can see the obstacles in your path before you trip over them, and you can see the beauty in the shadows that others miss. It is not a selfish act to protect your peace, for a steady candle can light the way for many, while a flickering one only adds to the confusion. In the gardens of the heart, the flowers of compassion and wisdom do not grow in a rush. They need the slow drip of reflection and the steady warmth of a quiet mind. If we are always running, we trample the very seeds we are trying to grow. Take a moment today to look at the people in your life as if for the first time, seeing the complexity of their struggles and the hidden light in their eyes. This kind of seeing is impossible when we are in a hurry, for hurry only allows us to see people as functions or obstacles. But when we slow down, we see them as fellow travelers, and our hearts naturally soften with a kindness that requires no effort at all. There is a story of a great ship that was caught in a massive storm, and while the sailors were panicking and the passengers were crying, the captain sat in the center of the deck, perfectly still, holding a single compass. He knew that if he moved with the panic of the waves, the ship would surely sink, but by remaining as still as the compass needle, he could find the way to calmer waters. You are the captain of your own life, and the storms of stress will surely come, but your stillness is the only thing that can guide you through. Do not let the waves tell you who you are, let the compass of your own presence show you the way home. The art of enjoying each moment is the realization that there is no later that is more real than now. We treat our lives like a ladder we are climbing, always looking at the next rung, but the truth is that life is the air we breathe while we are on the ladder. If you can find the beauty in the rung you are holding on to right now, you have already reached the top. The nectar of existence is hidden in the mundane details, the steam from a cup, the weight of a blanket, the sound of a distant bird. These are the small threads that make up the vast and miraculous tapestry of being alive. As you continue on your path, remember that every step is an arrival, and every breath is a completion. You do not need to hurry toward a future peace, for peace is not a destination, it is the way you walk the path. Let your footsteps be light and your heart be wide, and you will find that the world itself slows down to meet you, revealing its secrets in the quiet spaces between your thoughts and the gentle rhythm of your days, and as you embrace this art of lingering, you find that the richness of life is not found in how much you can gather, but in how much you can notice, turning each ordinary second into a sacred encounter with the infinite beauty of the present. The soft glow of a lantern does not try to outshine the sun, it simply provides enough light for the next few steps, and there is a profound wisdom in being content with seeing only what is right in front of us. We often exhaust ourselves by trying to illuminate the entire horizon of our lives, worrying about mountains we have not yet reached and rivers we have not yet crossed. But the art of living slowly is the art of the small circle of light, focusing our love and our care on the immediate task and the person standing before us. When we narrow our gaze to the here and all that it contains, the overwhelming weight of the future begins to lift, leaving us with a lightness of spirit that can navigate any darkness. There was once a village elder who was known for his incredible skill in repairing broken pottery, and people would bring him shattered vases from miles away. He did not simply glue the pieces back together, he practiced the art of joining the cracks with gold, a technique that celebrated the break rather than hiding it. He worked with such deliberate slowness that a single bowl might take him an entire month to finish. When asked why he did not use faster methods, he explained that the gold needed time to breathe and the clay needed time to accept the change. He told his neighbors that a life with cracks is not a ruined life, but a life that has been given the opportunity to become more beautiful through the slow application of patience and gold. We are all like those broken bowls, carrying the scars of our past and the cracks of our mistakes, and we often rush to hide them or fix them as quickly as possible. But if we slow down, we can see that our imperfections are the very places where the gold of our wisdom can be applied. Every difficult moment and every period of waiting is an opportunity to strengthen our character and to find a beauty that is deeper than the surface. You do not need to be perfect to be whole, and you do not need to be fast to be effective. The slow healing of a heart is a sacred process that cannot be hurried, just as the seasons cannot be forced to change before their time. In the old stories of the desert, there is a mention of the silent caravan, a group of traders who moved across the dunes without speaking a single word to one another. They believed that words were like water, precious resources that should not be wasted on trivialities. By remaining silent, they were able to hear the shifting of the sands and the distant calls of hidden springs that others would miss. They moved with a steady, rhythmic pace that allowed their camels to endure the heat without collapsing. We are often like a noisy caravan, filling every void with chatter and every moment with movement, yet it is only in the silence that we can hear the direction of our own souls. Think of the way a master gardener prunes a bonsai tree, making only 1 or 2 small cuts in a single day. He spends hours just looking at the tree, observing the way the branches reach for the light and the way the roots grip the earth. He knows that if he cuts too much or too fast, the tree will lose its spirit and its balance. Our lives also require this careful pruning, the intentional removal of the excess so that the essential can flourish. When we are in a hurry, we tend to accumulate more than we can handle, cluttering our schedules and our minds with things that do not truly matter. Slowing down gives us the clarity to see what needs to be let go, allowing our true shape to emerge from the tangle of busyness. There was a young seeker who sat by a waterfall for 7 days, trying to understand the meaning of the Dharma. He watched the water crash against the rocks, becoming frustrated because it seemed so violent and chaotic. On the 8th day, he looked not at the fall itself, but at the mist that rose from the bottom, drifting gently upward like a prayer. He realized that the water had to fall and break against the stones in order to become the mist, and that the mist was the most peaceful part of the process. Our struggles and our fast-paced lives are like the waterfall, but the peace we seek is the mist that arises when we allow ourselves to be broken open by the present moment. Consider the ancient art of weaving silk by hand, where a single mistake in the beginning can ruin the entire pattern yards later. The weavers would sing slow, ancient songs to keep their hands moving in perfect harmony with their breath. They knew that the quality of the silk was determined by the state of the weaver's mind, and if they felt a surge of impatience, they would stop and walk in the garden until their hearts were still. We are weaving the fabric of our destiny with every thought and every action, and if we rush, we create knots that will eventually cause us pain. By choosing to move with the rhythm of a calm heart, we ensure that the tapestry of our lives is smooth, strong, and beautiful. There is a gentle power in the act of observation, the ability to watch the world without the need to label it or change it. When you sit on a park bench and watch the pigeons, or when you stand at your window and watch the rain, you are practicing a form of deep rest. You are allowing the world to be exactly as it is, and in doing so, you are allowing yourself to be exactly as you are. This non-interference is the essence of slow living. It is the realization that the universe is already doing a magnificent job without our constant help, and that we can afford to take a break from our role as the manager of everything. In the Chronicles of a Mountain Monastery, it is said that the monks were required to walk so slowly that a bowl of water placed on their heads would not spill a single drop. This was not a test of balance, but a test of mindfulness, ensuring that their minds were not already at the end of the path while their bodies were still at the beginning. Most of us are always leaning forward into the next moment, our bodies always trying to catch up with our racing thoughts. To slow down is to bring the body and the mind back into alignment, so that when you take a step, you are fully in that step, and when you sit, you are fully in that seat. Think of the way the earth prepares for spring during the long, dark months of winter. On the surface, it looks as if nothing is happening, yet deep underground, the seeds are gathering the strength they need to burst through the soil. This period of dormancy is not a waste of time, it is the foundation of all the growth that is to come. We also have winters in our lives, times when we feel slow, tired, or uninspired. Instead of fighting these periods and trying to force ourselves into a summer of productivity, we can embrace the winter as a time of deep nourishment. It is in the quiet, slow moments that our most important ideas are born and our deepest wounds are healed. There was once a famous calligrapher who was asked to write a single character for a great temple, and he spent an entire year preparing the brush and the paper. When the day finally came, he dipped the brush in the ink and moved with a grace that looked like a slow-motion dance. The resulting character was so powerful that people claimed they could feel the wind blowing from the paper. He said that the secret was not in the movement of the hand, but in the year of waiting. The waiting had allowed the character to form in his spirit, so that when he finally moved, it was the spirit that did the writing. Your actions will have a similar power if they are born from a place of patient preparation rather than impulsive hurry. The art of enjoying each moment is the art of the second look, the willingness to look at something familiar until it becomes strange and wonderful again. When you look at your own hand, do not just see a tool for grasping, but see the miracle of the bones, the skin, and the blood that has been flowing since before you were born. When you look at a tree, do not just see wood and leaves, but see a living being that is breathing with you. This depth of appreciation is only possible when we stop rushing past things. Slowing down turns the world into a cathedral, where every object is a sacred relic and every sound is a hymn. There is a story of a traveler who was lost in a thick fog and began to panic, running in circles until he was exhausted. An old man he met told him to sit down and wait for the fog to lift, but the traveler said he didn't have time to wait. The old man laughed and asked where he was going in such a hurry if he didn't even know which way he was facing. Eventually, the traveler sat down, and as his breathing slowed and his mind became calm, the fog didn't disappear, but he began to notice the subtle direction of the wind and the smell of the sea, which guided him home. Our hurry is often a reaction to the fog of our own confusion, yet it is only in the sitting still that the path reveals itself. The rhythm of the seasons is a masterclass in the art of patience, reminding us that every stage of life has its own particular beauty and its own necessary duration. You cannot have the harvest without the planting, and you cannot have the flowers without the rain. When we try to rush through the difficult parts of our lives, we are like someone who wants to skip the middle of a song to get to the end. But the beauty is in the melody, not just the final note. Enjoy the slow unfolding of your own story, with all its twists, turns, and pauses. Every chapter is essential, and every moment is a piece of the whole. In the heart of the forest, there is a kind of silence that feels solid and ancient, a silence that seems to absorb all the worries of the world. You can find that same silence within yourself if you are willing to look for it. It is the space between your heartbeats and the stillness between your breaths. When you tap into that inner forest, the rush of the world feels like a distant murmur, unable to disturb your peace. You become like a great oak tree, rooted in the timeless present, while the winds of change blow harmlessly through your branches. Consider the way a child learns to walk, falling down 100 times but always getting back up with a smile. The child is not worried about how long it takes or how many times they fail, they are simply enchanted by the process of movement. We lose that enchantment when we start measuring our progress against others and worrying about the clock. To slow down is to reclaim the child's perspective, to find joy in the trying and the falling, and to realize that there is no deadline for becoming who you are. You are allowed to take as long as you need to find your footing in this world. There is an old parable about a man who was searching for the perfect moment and spent his whole life traveling to sacred mountains and distant shrines. On his deathbed, he realized that every moment he had spent searching was actually the perfect moment, but he had been too busy looking for it to actually live it. He saw that the perfect moment was not a place he could go, but a way he could be. It was in the way the sunlight hit the floor of his room and the way his breath felt in his chest. Do not spend your life searching for a perfection that is already here, hidden in plain sight. The art of lingering is a quiet rebellion against a society that values speed above all else. When you choose to stay at the table a little longer after a meal, or when you take the long way home just to see the trees, you are asserting your right to be a human being rather than a consumer. You are saying that your time belongs to you, and that you choose to spend it on the things that nourish your soul. This simple act of reclaiming your time is the beginning of a profound inner transformation. It is the path to a life that is not just long in years, but wide in experience and deep in meaning. As you move through the world today, let your presence be a gift to yourself and to everyone you meet. Speak with a slow, gentle clarity that honors the weight of your words. Listen with an openness that makes others feel truly seen. And when you feel the urge to rush, simply place your hand on your heart and feel the steady, patient rhythm of your own life. You are a part of a much larger story, a story that began long ago and will continue long after you are gone. In the grand scale of the universe, there is no need to hurry, for the now is eternal and you are exactly where you are supposed to be, resting in the quiet grace of the present. The reflection of the stars in a still pool at midnight is only possible because the water has stopped trying to go anywhere, resting in its own depth with a quietude that mirrors the vastness of the heavens. We often act as if we are rivers that must always be rushing toward some far-off delta, forgetting that we also have the capacity to be the still pool, reflecting the infinite beauty that surrounds us right here. When you allow your mind to settle, the celestial truths of your own existence become visible, no longer distorted by the ripples of a hurried life. This stillness is not a lack of movement, but a state of being where you are so aligned with the present that time itself seems to expand, offering you a spaciousness that the busy world can never understand. There is an old story of a master woodcarver who lived in a remote village, and he was known for making spoons that felt as light as a feather and as smooth as silk. He did not use modern tools or machines, but instead, he would sit with a single piece of wood for many days, just feeling the grain with his thumbs before he even picked up his knife. He said that the wood had a story to tell, and if he rushed the carving, he would be interrupting the wood's own voice. He would carve a little, then stop to watch the birds, then carve a little more, and by the time the spoon was finished, it was not just a tool for eating, but a piece of the forest's own soul. He taught the children that a meal eaten with a spoon made in a hurry tastes of salt and sweat, but a meal eaten with a spoon made with love tastes of sunshine and peace. We are all carving our own lives out of the raw material of our days, and the pressure to produce something quickly often makes us ignore the natural grain of our own spirits. If you try to force your life into a shape that doesn't fit, you will find yourself feeling brittle and exhausted, like wood that has been cut against the grain. But if you slow down and feel the direction of your own heart, you will find that life has a natural flow that requires very little effort. You do not need to hack away at your future with a heavy axe, you can shape it with the gentle, persistent touch of a person who trusts in the beauty of the process. In the ancient temples, the bells are struck with a slow, deliberate rhythm, allowing the sound to vibrate and fade completely before the next strike occurs. This interval of silence is just as sacred as the sound itself, for it is in the fading of the chime that the heart finds its deepest resonance. Our lives should be lived like the ringing of those bells, with enough space between our actions for the echoes of our experiences to be felt. If we strike the bell of our lives too fast, the sounds overlap into a discordant noise that leaves us feeling hollow and deaf to the subtle music of the world. By honoring the silence between your tasks, you are allowing your soul to ring with a clear and beautiful tone. There was once a traveler who met an old fisherman sitting by the sea, and the traveler asked him why he wasn't out on his boat catching more fish so he could buy a bigger boat and eventually retire in luxury. The fisherman smiled and asked what he would do once he retired, and the traveler said he would sit by the sea, enjoy the sun, and talk with his friends. The fisherman laughed softly and pointed to his humble chair on the sand, saying that he was already doing exactly that. We often spend the best years of our lives working at a frantic pace to reach a future where we can finally be still, not realizing that the stillness is available to us this very afternoon if we are willing to simplify our desires. The art of slow living is the art of the uncluttered heart, the ability to walk through the marketplace of life without letting the noise of the world stick to you. When you move slowly, you can see the traps of comparison and the lures of greed before you step into them. You realize that most of the things people are running after are just heavy stones disguised as gold. By choosing a simpler pace, you are traveling light, and those who travel light can go much further and see much more than those who are burdened by the weight of their possessions and their pride. Your freedom is found in the moments where you decide that what you have right now is enough. Consider the way the clouds drift across the summer sky. They do not have a map or a schedule, yet they never fail to reach the horizon. They change their shapes to accommodate the wind, and they let go of their rain when the earth is thirsty, never clinging to what they carry. We can learn to move through our responsibilities with that same fluid ease, doing what is necessary without the tension of holding on too tight. When you let go of the need to control every outcome, you find that a hidden intelligence begins to guide your life, much like the wind that carries the clouds. This trust is the ultimate form of slowing down, for it is the end of the internal struggle against the way things are. There is a legend of a mountain that was so tall its peak was always hidden in the clouds, and many climbers died trying to reach the top in a single day. But there was one old man who climbed the mountain every year by taking only 10 steps a day and then sitting to enjoy the view. It took him a long time to reach the summit, but he saw every flower, every hidden spring, and every change in the light, while the others saw only the rocks beneath their feet. When he finally reached the top, his heart was full of the mountain's secrets, while the others, had they arrived, would have been too tired to see the stars. Your life is that mountain, and the haste to reach the end only ensures that you will miss the journey. Think of the way a master calligrapher prepares his paper, smoothing it out with his palm until there is not a single wrinkle. This act of smoothing is a way of calming the mind, a physical prayer that prepares the ground for the ink. You can smooth out your own day by starting with a few minutes of total stillness, before the world begins to make its demands. This quiet beginning acts as a buffer, a sacred space that protects you from the friction of the coming hours. When you start from a place of peace, you carry that peace with you like a scent that never fades, influencing everything you touch and everyone you speak to. There is a quiet joy in doing things the long way, like writing a letter by hand or walking to the store instead of driving. These activities are not efficient in the eyes of the world, but they are incredibly efficient at nourishing the soul. They give us time to think, to feel the air, and to notice the small details that make life worth living. In a world that is obsessed with shortcuts, being a person who takes the long way is a radical act of self-love. You are saying that your experience of the walk is more important than the destination, and that you are worth the extra time it takes to do something with care and attention. In the old scrolls, there is a mention of a walking meditation, where the practitioner imagines that with every step, a lotus flower blooms beneath their feet. This practice transforms a simple walk into a ceremony of beauty and reverence. When you walk through your home or your workplace, try to imagine that you are planting peace with every footstep. This shift in perspective makes it impossible to rush, for you wouldn't want to crush the flowers of your own awareness. By treating the ground you walk on as sacred, you find that the world begins to treat you with a new kind of gentleness. The art of enjoying each moment is the ability to find that still point in the center of the turning wheel. Even when your life is busy and the world is spinning around you, there is a part of you that remains untouched and immovable. It is the silent witness that watches your thoughts and feelings without being swept away by them. When you slow down, you can find your way back to this still point, and from there, you can observe the dance of life with a sense of humor and a heart full of compassion. You realize that while the waves on the surface may be choppy, the depths of the ocean are always calm. There was a master who once told his disciples that the most important thing in life was to leave no footprints. He meant that we should live in such a way that we do not leave behind a trail of resentment, debt, or environmental destruction. To live this way requires a very slow and careful walk, a constant awareness of our impact on the world around us. When we rush, we tend to leave a mess behind us, but when we move with grace, we leave the world exactly as we found it, or perhaps a little bit brighter. This mindfulness is the highest form of ethics, a natural result of a heart that has learned to slow down and listen. Think of the way the sun warms a stone, a process that is silent, invisible, and completely effective. You do not need to make a lot of noise or exert a lot of pressure to have a positive impact on the world. Your quiet presence, your steady kindness, and your slow, deliberate way of being are like the warmth of the sun, gradually softening the hearts of those around you. We often underestimate the power of gentleness, yet it is the only thing that can truly change the world in a lasting way. By slowing down, you are choosing the path of the sun rather than the path of the storm. There is a beauty in the unfinished parts of our lives, the projects that are still in progress and the questions that don't have answers yet. When we are in a hurry, we see these things as failures or sources of stress, but when we slow down, we see them as signs of life. A finished garden is a dead garden, but a garden that is still growing is full of potential and surprise. Allow your life to be unfinished, and enjoy the mystery of what is still to come. You are a work of art that is constantly being refined, and there is no need to rush to the final stroke of the brush. The rhythm of your breath is the most reliable clock you possess, and it always tells the time of the present. Whenever you feel lost in the past or worried about the future, simply return to the sensation of the air entering and leaving your nostrils. This simple act is a way of coming home to yourself, a way of anchoring your spirit in the only place it can ever truly exist. Your breath is a bridge between the body and the soul, and by crossing that bridge with awareness, you find a peace that surpasses all understanding. You are a miracle of biological engineering and spiritual light, and each breath is a celebration of that fact. As you move into the next part of your journey, let the weight of your expectations fall away like dry leaves from a tree. You do not need to carry the burden of who you were or the pressure of who you want to become. Just be who you are in this very second, a being of light and shadow, walking a path of infinite beauty. The world is not something to be conquered, it is something to be felt, and the slower you move, the more deeply you will feel its embrace, finding that every moment is a doorway to the eternal, and every step is a homecoming to the heart of the now, where everything is already perfect just as it is. The morning mist clinging to the side of a mountain does not struggle to hide the peaks, it simply exists in a state of soft hovering, allowing the landscape to reveal itself only when the sun is ready to pull back the curtain. There is a deep, quiet courage in being willing to remain in the midst of your own life, not knowing all the answers and not forcing the clarity to arrive before its time. We are often so terrified of the unknown that we rush to fill the void with plans, theories, and busywork, but the art of slow living teaches us that the void is actually a fertile space where the soul can catch its breath. When you stop trying to shine a bright light into every dark corner of your future, you begin to develop a different kind of vision, a night vision of the spirit that can see the subtle beauty in the shadows. There was once a quiet potter who lived near a village where everyone was obsessed with the speed of their wheels, competing to see who could produce the most jars in a single day. This potter, however, would spend an entire morning just mixing the clay, feeling the grit and the moisture with a concentration that made him look as if he were in a trance. He said that the clay had a memory of the earth and the rain, and if he moved too fast, he would offend the spirits of the elements. He would shape only one jar a day, and while his neighbor's jars were thin and often cracked in the kiln, his jars were heavy, resonant, and seemed to hold the coolness of a deep well even in the heat of noon. He told his apprentices that a jar made in a hurry is just a container, but a jar made with time is a companion. We treat our days like containers to be filled with as many tasks as possible, often forgetting that the quality of the time is what nourishes us, not the quantity of the things we achieve. If you fill your day with hollow activities, you will end up feeling empty no matter how much you have done, but if you do one thing with your whole heart, you will feel a sense of fullness that lingers long after the sun has set. Slowing down is the process of thickening the moments of your life, giving them weight and texture so that they do not just slip through your fingers like dry sand. You are not a factory, you are a living, breathing work of art, and you deserve the luxury of a slow and careful creation. In the ancient annals of a distant kingdom, there is a story of a royal garden that was famous for a particular type of lily that only bloomed once every 7 years. The king would often go to the garden and sit for hours just looking at the green leaves, and when his ministers asked him why he wasted his time on a flower that was not there, he replied that he was watching the patience of the plant. He said that the lily was working just as hard during its years of greenness as it was during its week of white glory, and that the beauty of the bloom was only possible because of the steady, invisible labor of the roots. We are often so focused on the blooms of our lives, the successes, the celebrations, the big events, that we forget to value the quiet, green years of preparation. To live slowly is to honor the roots of your being, to appreciate the long periods of waiting and the silent work of growth that happens beneath the surface. You may feel like you are standing still while everyone else is racing ahead, but remember that the deepest roots take the longest to grow. When the storms of life inevitably arrive, it is the person with the deep roots who remain standing, while those who grew too fast are easily uprooted. Your stillness is not a waste of time, it is a gathering of strength, a deepening of your foundation that will allow you to hold more joy and more peace when the time for blooming finally arrives. Consider the way a master weaver of carpet sits at the loom, where every knot is a deliberate act of will and every color is a choice made in harmony with the whole design. If the weaver grows impatient and skips a single knot, the entire pattern will eventually shift, creating a flaw that cannot be easily hidden. Our relationships and our words are the knots in the carpet of our social world. When we are in a hurry, we speak harsh words or ignore the subtle needs of those we love, creating flaws in the fabric of our connections. By choosing to move slowly, we ensure that every knot is tied with kindness and every thread is placed with awareness, resulting in a life that is as sturdy as it is beautiful. There is a legend of a mountain monk who was asked to carry a single candle across a windy bridge without letting the flame go out. He did not run, for the wind created by his own movement would have extinguished the light. Instead, he moved with a slow, swaying grace, adjusting his body to the rhythm of the gusts, as if he and the candle were one single being. He understood that the secret to keeping the light alive was not to fight the wind, but to move in such a way that the wind could not find a way to get in. We all carry a small flame of inner peace, and the hurry of the world is like a constant wind trying to blow it out. If you move through your day with that same swaying grace, you will find that your light remains steady even in the midst of the most chaotic environments. Think of the way the earth breathes, the slow inhalation of the spring and the long exhalation of the autumn, a cycle that has continued for billions of years without ever missing a beat. There is no panic in the change of the seasons, no frantic rush to get the leaves to fall or the snow to melt. Everything happens in its own perfect time, and the earth remains calm through it all. You are a child of this earth, made of the same minerals and moved by the same tides. When you force yourself to go faster than your natural rhythm, you are creating a disharmony that vibrates through your entire body. By returning to a slower pace, you are simply realigning yourself with the great heartbeat of the world. There is a quiet dignity in the act of waiting for a door to be opened for you, or waiting for a person to finish their sentence before you speak. These small acts of patience are a form of respect for the space between people, a recognition that everyone has their own timing and their own internal world. In a world that is always trying to push through the door and interrupt the story, being a person who can wait is a form of spiritual royalty. You are showing that you are not a slave to your impulses, but a master of your own attention. This self-mastery is the foundation of all true peace, for it allows you to remain calm even when the world around you is screaming for speed. In the old stories of the sea, there is a mention of the calm at the center, a place in the middle of a great whirlpool where the water is perfectly still. Sailors who knew the secret would steer their ships not away from the whirlpool, but directly toward that center, using the energy of the swirling water to reach the place of peace. Your busy life is like that whirlpool, a mass of energy and movement that can easily pull you under if you fight it. But if you can find the center, that still point within yourself that remains unmoved by the activity, you can use the energy of your life to deepen your own stillness. You don't have to leave the world to find peace, you only have to find the point where the world and the spirit meet. The art of enjoying each moment is the ability to see the gold and the gray, the extraordinary beauty that is hidden in the most mundane tasks. When you are standing in line at the grocery store, instead of checking your watch or your phone, look at the way the light catches the colors of the fruit, or listen to the melody of the voices around you. Each of these things is a miracle, a result of 1,000 different causes and conditions coming together in this exact second. When you slow down, you become a witness to the magic of existence, a magic that is happening all the time but is only visible to those who are willing to wait for it. There was a master who once told his students that the most difficult thing in the world was to do nothing for 10 minutes. He sat them in a garden and told them to simply watch a single leaf. Most of the students were restless within the first minute, their minds wandering to their lunch or their duties. But one student became so absorbed in a leaf that he began to see the veins like rivers, the surface like a vast plain, and the way the leaf breathed in the sunlight. He realized that doing nothing was actually the most intense form of doing everything, for he was fully participating in the life of the leaf. This is the secret of the slow path: when you stop doing, you finally start being. The rhythm of your footsteps on the pavement is a drumbeat that can lead you back to your own heart. When you walk, try to make each step a prayer of gratitude, thanking the ground for supporting you and the air for giving you life. This practice turns a simple commute into a sacred journey, making it impossible to feel like you are wasting time. There is no such thing as dead time for a person who is fully awake. Every minute spent waiting, traveling, or resting is an opportunity to connect with the source of your being. By reclaiming these lost moments, you find that your life is much longer and much richer than you ever imagined. Think of the way a master musician plays a slow movement, where every note is held for its full value and every silence is given its proper weight. The slow movement is often the most difficult to play, for it requires a perfect control of the breath and a deep sensitivity to the emotion of the music. Your life is a symphony, and if you only play the fast movements, you are missing the depth and the soul of the composition. Don't be afraid of the slow passages, the quiet interludes where the melody seems to linger on a single note. These are the parts of the music that will stay with you the longest, the parts that will touch the hearts of those who are listening. There is a beauty in that, a slowness of the heart, the ability to let your feelings unfold at their own pace without trying to force them into a particular shape. When you feel sad, let yourself be fully sad, and when you feel joyful, let yourself be fully joyful. We often try to hurry our emotions, wanting to get past the pain or reach the happiness as quickly as possible. But emotions are like clouds, they need time to move across the sky of your mind. By being patient with your own heart, you are practicing a form of deep compassion that will eventually radiate outward to everyone you meet. As the shadows grow longer and the day begins to fold itself into the night, let yourself move with the fading light. There is no need to rush toward the end of the day, for the evening has its own gifts to offer: the coolness of the air, the appearance of the stars, and the quiet return to the self. Carry the peace of the slow path into your dreams, knowing that you have lived this day with awareness and love. You are a part of the great mystery, a being of light traveling through time, and the slower you go, the more of that mystery you will be able to see, finding that every moment is a sacred gift, and every breath is a reason to smile, as you rest in the gentle, unchanging embrace of the eternal now. The fragrance of a blooming jasmine at dusk does not demand your attention, it simply lingers in the air, offering its sweetness to anyone quiet enough to notice it, and our own inner peace works in much the same way. It is a subtle quality that cannot be forced or hurried into existence, but rather something that emerges when we stop making so much noise with our ambitions and our anxieties. When you move through your home with a gentle step, perhaps noticing the way the moonlight creates silver paths on the floorboards, you are participating in a conversation with the universe that happens entirely in the language of stillness. We often think of power as something loud and fast, like a rushing engine, but the greatest power in the world is the quiet persistence of the grass breaking through the concrete, a slow and steady force that never loses its direction. There is a story of a master calligrapher who was asked to write the word for peace on a large scroll for a new temple, and instead of picking up the brush immediately, he spent 3 days sitting in front of the blank paper. He watched the way the light changed from morning to evening, he listened to the sound of the wind in the bamboo, and he felt the texture of the silk under his fingers. On the 4th day, he took a single breath, dipped his brush, and moved with a fluid slowness that seemed to defy the laws of gravity. The character he created was not just a word, but a living presence that made everyone who looked at it feel a sudden, deep calm. He later told his students that the 3 days of sitting were not a delay, but the very essence of the stroke, for the brush can only move with true grace when the mind has finally stopped its frantic dancing. We are often like students who want to skip the sitting and go straight to the writing, but a life without the preparation of stillness is a life that lacks resonance. When you allow yourself the luxury of a slow morning, where the steam from your tea is the most important thing in your world, you are preparing your soul for the work of the day. You are grounding yourself in the reality of your own existence, so that when the world tries to pull you in 1,000 different directions, you remain centered and firm. Slowing down is not a withdrawal from the world, it is a way of entering it with more potency, because a focused mind is like a magnifying glass that can start a fire with only the gentle light of the sun. Think of the way a master weaver of silk looks at a tangled mess of threads. She does not pull at them with anger or haste, for she knows that force will only tighten the knots. Instead, she uses a thin needle and a soft touch, patiently loosening each strand until the harmony is restored. Our problems and our worries are like those tangled threads, and the more we rush to solve them, the more complicated they become. But when we approach our difficulties with a slow and patient heart, we find that the knots begin to untie themselves. This is the wisdom of the middle way, the understanding that the best results come not from struggle, but from a gentle and persistent awareness that allows things to unfold in their own natural order. In the old chronicles of a mountain village, it is said that the people measured their wealth not by how much gold they had, but by how many sunsets they had watched with a quiet mind. They believed that a sunset mist was a treasure lost forever, and every evening, the entire village would stop their work and sit on their porches in total silence. They understood that the transition from light to dark is a sacred moment that requires our full attention, a time to let go of the day's burdens and prepare for the rest of the night. By making this a daily ritual, they lived with a sense of rhythm and peace that kept them healthy and wise even into their oldest years. You can create your own ritual of the sunset, a time to put down your tools and simply be a witness to the closing of the day. Consider the way a deep-sea diver moves through the water. Every movement is deliberate and slow, for any sudden burst of speed would consume too much oxygen and disturb the delicate balance of the body. Life is like that deep ocean, and the deeper we go into the meaning of our existence, the slower we must move. When we stay on the surface, we can afford to be fast and shallow, but the treasures of the soul are only found in the depths, where the pressure is great and the light is soft. By slowing down, you are giving yourself the permission to be a diver, to explore the hidden caves of your own heart and to find the pearls of wisdom that are hidden far beneath the waves of daily activity. There was once a young man who wanted to find the fastest way to become a master of the sword, and he traveled to a distant mountain to seek out a legendary teacher. The teacher told him that if he practiced every day, it would take 10 years, and if he practiced twice as hard, it would take 20. The young man was confused, asking why it would take longer if he worked harder. The teacher replied that when you have one eye on the goal, you only have one eye on the path, and that a man who is in a hurry to arrive is a man who is too tense to see the enemy. This is the trap of the modern world, where our obsession with the destination makes us blind to the very steps we are taking. To slow down is to use both eyes to see the path, ensuring that every movement is precise, effortless, and full of life. The silence of a heavy snowfall has a way of turning the entire world into a temple, where every sound is muffled and every shape is softened. You can carry that snowy silence within you even on a busy summer day, by creating a mental space that is untouched by the heat and the noise. It is like the center of a hurricane, where the wind is howling all around but the very heart is perfectly calm. This inner sanctuary is where your true strength lies, and the slower you move, the easier it is to stay within its protection. When you act from this center, your actions are not reactions to the world, but expressions of your own inner clarity, like a bell that rings with a pure tone because it is not cracked by the strain of hurry. Imagine a world where the flowers decided to bloom all at once to save time. The bees would be overwhelmed, the nectar would go to waste, and the beauty would be a fleeting blur. Nature is wise because it knows the value of the sequence, the way one thing leads to another with a patience that spans across eons. Your life also has a sequence, a rhythm of beginning, middle, and end that cannot be compressed without losing its meaning. When you try to do everything at once, you are like a musician playing all the notes of a symphony in a single second. It is the duration of the notes and the space between them that creates the music. By honoring the duration of your own experiences, you are allowing the melody of your life to be heard in all its richness. There is a gentle joy in the act of walking without a destination, what the old poets called wandering with the clouds. When you have nowhere to go, every place you stand is an arrival, and every person you meet is a gift. This kind of walking is a form of deep prayer, a way of saying to the universe that you trust in its guidance and that you are happy to be wherever you are. We are so used to walking as a way to get from point A to point B that we forget that walking itself is a miracle. Feel the muscles in your legs, the balance of your hips, and the way your breath synchronizes with your pace. In this awareness, there is no such thing as a boring street or a wasted trip. Think of the way a master chef prepares a slow-simmered broth, adding the ingredients one by one and letting the fire do the work over many hours. If he were to turn up the heat to finish faster, the flavors would be harsh and the texture would be ruined. The best things in life, like deep friendship, true love, and genuine wisdom, are slow-simmered. They require the low heat of daily attention and the long duration of shared experiences. You cannot hurry the growth of a soul any more than you can hurry the ripening of a grape. Be patient with yourself and with those you love, knowing that the most delicious fruits are those that have taken the longest to grow in the sun. In the old stories, the heroes were often those who knew how to wait for the right moment, even when the world was urging them to act. They knew that a single action taken at the perfect time is more effective than 1,000 actions taken in a state of panic. This waiting is not a passive state, but an active, vibrant alertness, like a tiger crouching in the grass. When you slow down, you are developing this capacity for right action. You are learning to distinguish between the impulse to do something and the wisdom of knowing what to do. This clarity is the ultimate reward of the slow path, for it leads to a life of fewer mistakes and greater fulfillment. The art of enjoying each moment is the ability to see the sacred in the ordinary, to treat the washing of a window or the sweeping of a floor with the same reverence as a ceremony in a grand cathedral. When you move the broom with a slow and rhythmic motion, you are not just cleaning the floor, you are clearing the dust from your own mind. Every stroke is a chance to let go of a worry, and every pile of dust is a reminder of the impermanence of all things. This mindfulness transforms drudgery into delight, making every moment of your day a source of peace. You do not need to go to a temple to find the divine, for the divine is present in the very dust you are sweeping. There is a beauty in the slow fading of the light as the evening comes, the way the colors of the world soften and blend into one another. It is a reminder that there is a time for everything, a time to work and a time to rest, a time to speak and a time to be silent. When you align your own life with this natural transition, you find that the stress of the day begins to fall away like an old garment. You are preparing your body and mind for the deep, restorative sleep that is the foundation of all well-being. By moving slowly through your evening routine, you are sending a message to your nervous system that it is safe to relax, creating a bridge of peace that leads you into the world of dreams. As you look toward the horizon of your life, remember that the distance is not something to be feared, but a space to be explored with wonder. You do not need to reach the end today, for the end is just another beginning in the great cycle of existence. Carry the peace of the slow path with you as you navigate the complexities of your world, knowing that every breath is a completion and every step is a sacred journey. You are a part of a vast and beautiful design, and the slower you go, the more of that design you will be able to see, finding that the art of enjoying life is simply the art of being fully present in the only moment that has ever truly mattered, which is the one you are breathing right now. The way the morning dew clings to a blade of grass is a silent lecture on the beauty of the temporary, where each tiny orb of water reflects the entire sun without needing to hold on to its brilliance for more than a few fleeting minutes. We spend so much of our energy trying to make things permanent, trying to build walls around our happiness so that it can never leave us, yet the very nature of life is a flowing river that only stays fresh because it is constantly moving. When you slow down, you stop trying to freeze the river and instead learn to float with the current, discovering that the security you seek is not in the destination but in your ability to remain calm amidst the changing tides. There is an old tale of a master weaver who lived in the high mountains and created robes that were said to change color with the emotions of the wearer. He did not use a loom, but instead tied each thread to the branches of the trees around his hut, allowing the wind to help him weave the fabric over many seasons. When asked why he worked so slowly, he explained that the robe needed to absorb the patience of the forest and the rhythm of the stars if it were to have the power to heal the heart. He believed that any garment made in a day would only carry the restlessness of the day, but a garment made in a year would carry the peace of a lifetime. Our lives are the fabric we are weaving, and the quality of our days depends on how much of the forest's patience we allow into our work. If you rush through your conversations, your words will be thin and easily torn, but if you speak with a slow and deliberate kindness, your relationships will become like those enchanted robes, providing warmth and healing to everyone who touches them. This is the art of the lingering heart, the capacity to stay with a moment until its true essence is revealed. Think of the way a great mountain sits through the passing of the centuries, watching the snow fall and the flowers bloom without ever losing its deep, internal silence. The mountain does not try to be taller or more impressive, it simply is, and its presence alone is enough to inspire awe in anyone who looks upon it. You have that same mountain-like quality within you, a core of being that is untouched by the frantic pace of the world. By choosing to slow down, you are reclaiming your right to be a mountain, to stand firm in your own truth while the storms of fashion and opinion blow harmlessly around you. There was a traveler who came across a group of monks who were painting a mural on a wall with nothing but their own fingertips. They would dip their fingers in jars of ground minerals and press them against the stone, one dot at a time, creating vast landscapes of light and shadow. The traveler asked why they did not use brushes to finish the work more quickly, and one monk replied that the touch of the finger was the only way to truly feel the stone's response. He said that the work was not about the mural, but about the intimacy between the man and the mountain. We are often so focused on the mural of our careers and our reputations that we lose the intimacy of the touch, the raw and beautiful connection with the material of our lives. When you cook a meal, feel the texture of the vegetables, the weight of the knife, and the warmth of the stove. When you walk, feel the resistance of the air and the solid support of the earth. These sensations are the dots of color that make up the masterpiece of your existence, and they can only be felt when you move with the grace of someone who has all the time in the world. In the ancient records of a forgotten valley, there is a mention of a language of the eyes, a way of communicating that involves sitting in silence and looking at one another with total presence. The people of that valley believed that words were often just a way to hide from the truth, but the eyes could never lie. They would spend hours just being with one another, allowing their souls to speak in the quiet spaces between their heartbeats. We have become a culture of noisy interruptions, but you can rediscover the language of the eyes by simply slowing down when you are with your loved ones, giving them your full, undivided attention. Consider the way a master gardener tends to a vineyard. He does not pull on the grapes to make them grow, but instead ensures that the soil is rich and the water is clean. He knows that the growth is a miracle that happens in the dark, in its own time, and his only job is to provide the right conditions. Your own spiritual growth is no different. You cannot force yourself to be wiser or more peaceful by reading more books or attending more lectures. You can only provide the conditions of stillness and awareness, and then wait for the wisdom to bloom. There is a profound joy in the act of unscheduling your life, leaving large gaps in your day where nothing is planned. These gaps are the lungs of your soul, allowing you to breathe and to react spontaneously to the beauty around you. When every minute is accounted for, there is no room for the unexpected gift, the sudden conversation with a stranger, or the chance to watch a hawk circling in the sky. By slowing down and creating these empty spaces, you are inviting the universe to surprise you, and you will find that the best parts of your life are often the ones you never saw coming. Think of the way a master musician plays a single note on a stringed instrument, letting the vibration travel through the wood and out into the room until it becomes a part of the silence. If he were to play the next note too quickly, the first one would be cut short, and the beauty of the resonance would be lost. Your actions are like those musical notes, and they need time to resonate in the world around you. When you do something kind, let the feeling of that kindness linger in your heart before you move on to the next task. This resonance is what gives your life its depth and its meaning. There was once a young girl who spent her days collecting smooth stones from a riverbed and arranging them in circles on the sand. A busy merchant stopped and asked her why she was wasting her time when she could be selling the stones for profit. The girl looked at him with clear eyes and said that she was not wasting time, she was listening to the stories the stones told her about the mountains they had come from. The merchant laughed and walked away, but that night, he found he could not sleep because the silence of his own house felt empty. He had forgotten how to listen to the stories of the world. The art of enjoying each moment is the ability to be like that young girl, to see the value in things that cannot be sold or measured. It is the realization that the most precious things in life are the ones we cannot hold in our hands, like the feeling of the sun on our backs or the sound of a friend's laughter. When you slow down, you are training your heart to value these invisible treasures, and you will find that your life becomes immensely wealthy, even if your pockets remain empty. In the old scrolls, it is said that the greatest teachers were those who could say more with a single smile than others could with 1,000 books. This power came from their ability to be completely present in that smile, without any hidden agenda or distracting thoughts. You can practice this power of the present in your own life by simply being fully where you are. When you are standing in line, be fully in that line. When you are waiting for a bus, be fully at that bus stop. This total presence is the ultimate form of slowing down, for it collapses the distance between you and the divine. Think of the way the moonlight reflects off a rippling lake. The light is always there, but it is only when the water is still that you can see the perfect circle of the moon. Your mind is that lake, and the light of truth is always shining upon it. If you are always in a rush, your mind will be full of ripples, and the truth will look distorted and broken. But when you choose to be still, the light will reflect clearly, and you will see that the peace you have been searching for has been within you all along. There is a beauty in the slowness of the seasons, that we often ignore in our climate-controlled lives. The way the leaves gradually change color, the way the days slowly shorten, the way the earth prepares for sleep. When you align your own rhythms with the seasons, you find a sense of belonging that is deeper than any social connection. You realize that you are not a separate entity fighting against nature, but a part of the grand symphony of the world. Slowing down is the process of finding your place in that symphony and playing your part with grace and humility. As you move through your day, remember that every interaction is a sacred encounter. Treat the person who serves you coffee or the person who passes you on the street with the same reverence you would show to a great master. Everyone you meet is carrying a heavy burden, and your slow, gentle presence can be a source of comfort to them, even if no words are spoken. By refusing to be rushed, you are creating a pocket of peace in a frantic world, and that peace will radiate outward like the ripples from a stone dropped into a still pond. You are a traveler in time, but the destination is not the end of the road, it is the quality of the journey itself. Every breath is a chance to start again, to choose the path of the heart over the path of the ego. The slower you go, the more you will see, and the more you see, the more you will love. In this love, there is no room for hurry or fear, only the quiet, luminous presence of the now, where every moment is a miracle and every step is a homecoming to the eternal source of all that is, as you find yourself drifting into a state of profound gratitude that colors every thought and every action with the soft light of a soul at rest. The scent of damp earth after a long rain carries a whisper of ancient beginnings, reminding us that life does not need to hurry to be powerful, for the quietest transformation often happens in the dark, cool silence of the soil. When you find yourself standing at the edge of a busy day, look at the way the shadows lengthen with a patient dignity, never rushing toward the night but rather embracing each deepening shade of blue and gold. There is a sacred rhythm in the closing of a flower and the settling of the birds, a universal permission for us to let go of the day's striving and return to the simple, unadorned truth of our own breath. We spend so much of our energy trying to leave a mark on the world, but the most beautiful lives are often like the flight of a bird through the sky, leaving no trace behind but filling the air with a momentary, perfect grace. There was once a venerable teacher who lived in a hut made of woven reeds, and he was known for his ability to find the most exquisite beauty in things that others discarded as worthless. One day, a young traveler arrived, boasting of all the famous monuments he had seen and the great distances he had covered in record time. The teacher invited him to sit and handed him a small, plain stone from the riverbed, asking the young man to tell him its history. The traveler looked at it for a second and said it was just a common rock, but the teacher smiled and began to describe the thousands of years the water had spent smoothing its edges, the minerals that had traveled from distant peaks to form its core, and the way it held the warmth of the afternoon sun. He told the traveler that to see the world quickly is to see a surface of gray, but to see the world slowly is to walk through a gallery of infinite masterpieces. Our existence is that gallery, and we are the curators of our own wonder, yet we often walk through it with our eyes fixed on the exit sign. When you choose to slow down, you are choosing to stop and stand before the painting of your own life, noticing the subtle brushstrokes of your joys and the deep, rich colors of your sorrows. You realize that nothing is truly ordinary when it is touched by the light of your full attention. The way your hands feel as they rest in your lap, the sound of a clock ticking in a quiet room, or the taste of a single grain of salt, these are the textures of reality that the hurried mind misses. By lingering in these details, you are weaving a richness into your soul that no amount of material success can ever provide. In the old chronicles of the desert, there is a mention of a well of stillness that was said to be located at the very heart of the harshest wilderness. Many sought it by racing across the sands, but they only found heat and exhaustion, for the well was not a place on a map but a state of being. The legend says that the well only appears to those who are willing to sit in the shade of a single palm tree until they can hear the sound of their own blood singing in their veins. It is only when the external noise of getting somewhere fades away that the internal fountain of peace begins to bubble over. You do not need to travel across the globe to find this well, for it is hidden beneath the layers of your own busyness, waiting for you to be still enough to drink from its cool, life-giving waters. Think of the way a master archer draws the bow. There is a moment of absolute, vibrant stillness before the arrow is released, a pause where the archer, the bow, and the target become a single entity. If the archer hurries this moment, the aim will be lost, but by honoring the stillness, the arrow finds its home with an effortless precision. Your actions in the world are the arrows, and your inner calm is the bow. When you act from a place of haste, you often miss the mark of your own intentions, creating more confusion than clarity. But when you allow yourself the luxury of the pause, your words and deeds carry a weight and a truth that can change the hearts of those around you without any struggle at all. There is a gentle wisdom in the way a cat watches a butterfly, with an intensity that is completely relaxed, a focused presence that is not a strain but a form of play. We have been taught that focus requires tension, that we must grit our teeth and narrow our minds to be productive. But the highest form of focus is a soft, wide-open receptivity, a way of being so present that the world flows through you like wind through a flute. When you move slowly, you can cultivate this soft focus, allowing you to be productive without being stressed and active without being agitated. You become like a dancer who moves with the music rather than trying to control it, finding that the dance itself is the only reward you ever needed. Consider the way the ancient stone steps of a monastery are worn into smooth hollows by the feet of thousands of pilgrims over hundreds of years. Each individual step was light and seemingly insignificant, yet together they have reshaped the solid rock into a testament of devotion. Your life is also being shaped by the small, repetitive movements of your daily habits. If you walk through your days with a heavy, hurried tread, you create a path of friction and wear, but if you walk with a slow, mindful step, you are carving a path of grace. Every time you choose to breathe instead of react, every time you choose to listen instead of interrupt, you are smoothing the stone of your own character. There was a master who was asked what he did to maintain his legendary peace, and he replied that he simply made sure that his hands were always moving at the same speed as his heart. He explained that most people's hands are trying to finish the work of tomorrow, while their hearts are still grieving for yesterday, and this misalignment is the source of all suffering. To slow down is to bring your hands and your heart back together, right here in the present. Whether you are typing a message, gardening, or holding the hand of a friend, let the movement be an expression of your immediate love. This unity of being is the true meaning of integrity, a state where there is no gap between who you are and what you are doing. The silence of a mountain peak at dawn is a silence that contains all the sounds of the world, a vast and inclusive quietude that welcomes the wind and the bird alike. You can build such a peak within your own mind, a high place of perspective where the petty dramas of the day look like tiny clouds far below. From this height, you can see that the things you thought were emergencies are just passing shadows, and the things you thought were obstacles are just part of the beautiful, rugged terrain. Slowing down gives you the wings to reach this peak, allowing you to look at your life with a sense of humor and a heart full of spaciousness, realizing that you are much more than the sum of your tasks. Imagine a river that decided to stop flowing toward the sea because it was in too much of a hurry to get there. It would only become a stagnant pool, losing its vitality and its song. The river is only a river because it is willing to take the long, winding path, resting in the deep bends and rushing over the shallows with an equal sense of purpose. You are that river, and the ocean of your true nature is not something you are moving toward, but the very substance of what you are. By enjoying the journey, you are not delaying the arrival, you are living the destination in every mile. There is no need to push the river of your life, for it is already being pulled by the irresistible gravity of the divine. There is a beauty in the way an old book smells, a scent of time and wisdom that has been captured in the fibers of the paper. Your life is like that book, and each day is a page that you are writing with the ink of your experiences. If you flip through the pages too fast, you miss the nuances of the story and the beauty of the language. But if you read slowly, you find that even the blank spaces between the words have a meaning. Allow yourself to be a slow reader of your own existence, savoring the sentences that are full of joy and reflecting deeply on the paragraphs that are marked by struggle. In the end, it is not the length of the book that matters, but how deeply the story has been felt. As the stars begin to emerge in the velvet sky, let them remind you of the vastness that you are a part of, a universe that has been expanding for billions of years with a patience that is beyond human comprehension. You are a stardust being, a temporary gathering of light and energy that has the incredible privilege of witnessing this moment. In the face of such cosmic grandeur, all our hurries and worries seem like tiny sparks that vanish in the night. Carry this perspective with you as you close your eyes, letting the peace of the slow path sink into your bones. You have done enough, you are enough, and the universe is holding you with a love that never sleeps. The art of enjoying each moment is the art of returning home to the heart, over and over again, until you realize that you never truly left. It is a path of radical kindness toward yourself and a gentle embrace of the world just as it is. There is no finish line to cross, no trophy to win, only the ongoing ceremony of being alive. Let your footsteps be soft, your words be sweet, and your heart be wide open to the infinite wonders of the present. You are the light you have been seeking, and the peace you have been traveling toward is the very ground beneath your feet, as you finally settle into the profound, unchanging stillness that has always been the center of your soul, vibrating with a quiet joy that needs no reason and knows no end.